The Aldis podcast is brought to you by Aldis International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hi everyone, it's Mark Kelly here. Hope you're doing really well today. I'm delighted to welcome Robert Mostachetti to the show. Robert is a VP of Industry Solutions at Nuvolo. Robert, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Robert, you are a big LinkedIn guy. If anyone's been living under a rock within the world of ServiceNow, they will have seen you or heard your opinion and given your 5 cents on a variety of different things, most notably knowledge. Would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about your background? How did you get into the world of ServiceNow?
Okay, this is a roundabout way. It might be a little different for most of your listeners. I've spent my entire career in the corporate real estate and facilities management space. So starting back in the day from the functional aspect of sitting in facilities departments, doing moves, construction projects, space planning, and a multitude of other things. So I took that and then went to the software side of the world, to where at one point in my career, I implemented what we called a CAFM system back in the day, a computer-aided facilities management system. So I did that and then parlayed that into a career in the consulting world, which spanned quite some time, where I was able to do implementations, customer support and account management, and then basically moved into sales from there. So I compiled all this experience on both the functional and the technical side, which eventually, without getting into step by step of my entire bio, led me to Nuvolo. And the reason why I came to Nuvolo was Nuvolo had a very unique value proposition in this world that I lived in, which is CAFM systems and IWMS systems. The old CAFM term kind of went away, and then we moved into what's called an integrated workplace management system, which covers the 5 pillars of corporate real estate, which is space management, maintenance management, real estate lease management, capital project management, and sustainability. So those 5 pillars make up IWMS. And to get back to why and how I ended up Nuvolo, Nuvolo's unique value proposition is what's important to your listeners, and what's important to you is Nuvolo is a natively scoped application on the ServiceNow platform. So we take all those things that pertain to corporate real estate and facilities, add it to the suite of solutions ServiceNow offers to deliver services on the IT side of the house, to really extend that investment in the platform. And that's what leads us here today. And that's how I, in a roundabout way, ended up in the ServiceNow ecosystem.
Fantastic story. And there would not be too many that would have a similar story to that. A lot of follow-up questions about real estate, but I'm going to leave them for another time.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit. So for our listeners who may not know about kind of what a natively scoped application is, could you maybe kind of give a little bit more context around that and how it benefits customers?
Sure. It's kind of like thinking, let's look at it this way. If you think about ServiceNow as the platform, it's kind of like an iPhone. You go into the ServiceNow store, and there's all these wonderful apps that serve different needs that are scoped to be installed on the platform by third parties. So that's a natively scoped application. We're not an integration. So if a customer or a prospect chooses to move forward with Nuvolo, they get their entitlement, they go into the ServiceNow store, and they download that into their environment. It's just another application that will sit in their ServiceNow environment. That's the best way I can explain it, Mark.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's really helpful. So Nuvolo is described as a connected workplace solution. What does this mean in practical terms?
Sure. That kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about IWMS. We live in that integrated workplace management system family, to where we support all those functions of corporate real estate and facilities. So we branded it the connected workplace because it's the latest iteration of IWMS. And to me, being built on the ServiceNow platform and being in this ecosystem, we truly give that holistic view of an integrated workplace management system that we've branded the Connected Workplace, all on one platform to support a world-class delivery of your real estate, your facilities, and all your services at your firm for your end users.
And when we look at the benefits that that platform can give to customers,
Sure.
can you maybe talk me through
Sure.
example about that, how that's maybe significantly impacted a customer from, maybe what was the problem and how did you kind of help them on that journey?
It's all about system consolidation, really. We like to say we consolidate systems for a living because in my world, in the IWMS world, a lot of times you see systems that are either old on-prem solutions or you see global organizations that have a multitude of solutions. They have disparate processes, disparate systems. So the real value of Nuvolo is bringing all those functions and consolidating multiple systems, multiple processes onto one platform that IT's already signed off on, that the InfoSec reviews have been conducted, and the real value is creating that platform strategy. When you look at some of our customers, whether it's Chevron or 7-Eleven, we're working with some of the biggest firms in the world. That really drives the value of that one platform, one cohesive approach to their service delivery models.
Tell me a little bit about your approach or Nuvolo's approach to scalability, and particularly for growing enterprises.
Sure. So at the end of the day, just like, on the power of the platform, we have customers that have 2,000 employees, and we have some of the Fortune 10, quite frankly, with tens of thousands of employees, if not hundreds of thousands of employees. So really, with a correct implementation approach and really looking at what you're trying to do, we can fit all sizes of the business. We also have an SMB, which stands for small to mid-market business, to where it's a pre-configured solution that we can deploy for those much smaller companies, maybe 500 to 1,000 employees with a smaller physical footprint. So we can go as big as, some of the largest oil and gas companies in the world, or we could go all the way down to a small tech company in Silicon Valley.
So, for example, with Comcast, can you talk us through a little bit
Sure.
how you were able to, impact that company?
Yeah, we really have a great story with Comcast, which is one of the top content providers out there right now and internet providers in the world. So there are a couple phases to this project. Number one was essentially it's kind of project management, and it's bringing on an asset for them. With all their data centers, we manage 1,600 critical head ends for Comcast, to where if they have to bring in on an asset, say like a UPS, in support of that, they have to put that work out to bid. It has to go to somebody who's certified to bid on the project. It also has to have, specifications around the type of equipment they want to use. Then they receive the bids back from the vendor. So it goes out to the vendor, it comes back internally to Comcast, and they award the contract. And then the asset is installed per Comcast standards. And that's all managed in a process flow within Nuvolo. So that's the first piece. The next piece is the management of those head ends and hubs using Nuvolo with their 5 key vendors. They have APIs that go into Nuvolo, as these vendors have different work systems, meaning go out and do something. Something's broken, something needs to be repaired, something needs to be validated. That's all managed via API. Where we're moving with Comcast is eventually those vendors are going to interact directly with Nuvolo moving forward as they mature in their processes. They really needed to have more exposure to what was going on with their head ends and hubs from a vendor perspective. And the biggest ROI they saw was during outages and how they can do better process improvement. What did we do right? What did we do wrong in this scenario? And then finally, the last phase of this project is essentially going to be a preventive maintenance routine and a preventive maintenance program in partnership with their vendors in Nuvolo to make sure they're proactively maintaining those assets that are key to their revenue stream.
When you see the outage and the impact that that can have across the business, being able to manage something like that, I can imagine is such a huge impact. And then taking into consideration predictive maintenance, because you just can't have these systems breaking down.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, how many times in the past, the power goes out or cable goes out, and then somebody gets frustrated and now they move to a different provider or different service or things like that. It is core to their business. And again, I really liked what they said to me. They said, Bob, it's all about how can we do better? And it's like, that tells me this is a company that cares, right? Because at the end of the day, you have customers that you're delivering your service to, and this infrastructure is so critical to the bottom line and having happy customers.
So when you look at some of the changes we've had, recent global changes, shift to remote work, how has that affected the development and implementation of Nuvolo solutions?
That's a great question, because at the end of the day, right now, I was just reading a CBRE report. Office utilization now is less than 60%. And in the past, we've seen numbers upwards of 70 to 80% utilization, meaning people actually showing, not who's assigned where, people actually showing up to the building. So when you look at a utilization rate of less than 60%, they're going to start to live with 50%, meaning these buildings are half occupied. So firms, companies, everybody needs to start looking at their portfolio and say, are we going to reduce? Are we going to consolidate in certain geographies? Can we invest less in maybe those more expensive areas, and maybe invest more in areas that are more affordable but have more people who have migrated during the last few years to those what they call spoke locations. The hub is the HQ, and then the spokes in these smaller markets. So really, Nuvolo can help people rationalize their portfolios and better understand how their space is being used, or how efficiently a building's running, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's funny. Over the last 3 to 5 years, working in the US, people working remotely, it wasn't a huge thing because a lot of people just work remotely. That was just the way it was. But still, you would have the majority of people in the office. To in Europe, that was just very, very, very different mindset. Vast majority of people were in the office. Remote wasn't really something that was there. And now a similar story. So you've got a situation where your whole mindset and approach to how you take that into factors of that within your occupancy have to be looked at. And so many big decisions have to be made. And then you're kind of future gazing to say, okay, well, how low is this going to go?
Yeah, that I love that word you just used, future gazing, because that is really what everybody's looking at right now. If you really look at all the reports coming from the big service providers, I'm talking about CBRE, I'm talking about JLL, Cushman Wakefield, Newmark, really office utilization rates is what everybody has their eyeballs on right now. And if you ask a broker, Class A office space, not a lot of people are securing new leases in Class A office space. There's been a shift to more of the industrial space for companies like Amazon and companies like Walmart who do e-commerce. But right now, people really need to sharpen their pencils and take a look at what their portfolios look like from a physical standpoint across the board, because it could even be something like a building that is old and is not performing well, as opposed to continuing to invest in that. Then you start to look at, divesting your interest in that asset. Corporate real estate and facilities is the number 2 expenditure behind people. So it really comes down to a dollars and cents thing, especially in the United States and other areas. You need to report all your leases and liabilities on your balance sheet for SEC reporting. So it's becoming so important right now.
Yeah, it really feels like we're at a kind of a tipping point of
Oh yeah.
which way it's going to go. And I can see pros and cons of each side, right? But from running a business perspective, from that CEO, trying to think of which is going to be the most impactful. They've got a lot of different decisions to make, and having the right data to allow them to look at that next best action is very, very important. For people listening in, Bob, who want to take action and kind of reach out to Nuvolo, or what would the steps be?
Sure. So it would be quite simple. I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. My name is Bob Mostachetti on LinkedIn, or Bob Mostachetti as you appropriately pronounced it, which I appreciated. You can reach out to me there, or you can go to www.nuvolo.com and put in a request there as well. But the quickest path to success would be to reach out directly to me on LinkedIn. But we also have a Nuvolo LinkedIn page with all that information there as well.
I've been chatting to Bob Mostachetti. Bob is VP of Industry Solutions at Nuvolo. Bob, thanks so much for your time today.
Mark, I really appreciate it. I want to thank your audience for welcoming me in and telling me a little bit about my unique background and how I fit into the ServiceNow ecosystem.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the All This podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.allthis.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.